Happy Friday, Pat.
Hey, Rick. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Welcome to our millions of loyal viewers.
Yep.
Like 1,018,000 last week.
Nice.
18 of which were real and the million we've made up. But we respect all of them and appreciate all of our viewers.
Sounds like some of our voting processes.
Yes, that's right. No hanging chads here. So, no hanging chads here.
No.
So I want to remind our viewers the purpose of these Friday calls. We are not going to attempt to predict the real estate market, because if I was that good, I'd be really wealthy, and so would Pat. And actually, we are. We just don't like to tell anybody. But and I bought the beers last night, by the way. So
yeah.
But what we want to do is we want to establish, we're tracking numbers on a weekly basis so that we can establish a baseline. And by doing that, we'll know if something pops out. And I thought your sports analogy last night was perfect.
Yeah. I mean, as far as walking, we've been watching the game since the first quarter, and now it's the 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter, end of the game, and people are walking in the living room saying, "What's going on?" You're just going to see the last. You haven't been watching. We've been watching the game the whole game.
Yeah. And so, in doing so, we'll see. Now, it may seem boring because every time we get on, it's like, well, we have 8,300 listings, and we had 4,000 new listings come on, and we sold 4,000, and interest rates haven't changed. But one of these Fridays, one of those numbers are going to pop.
Stay tuned.
Either way, and we're going to go, okay, we need to follow this. I mean, there's enough going on around us that can make housing be in real trouble, but there's a lot going on too that's supporting housing quite well. And in the Cromfort report, I pulled up and read this morning, and this is just to remind everybody, the Cromfort report is he's an analyst and statistician and not a real estate agent. And he has been accurate for a couple of decades here, far more accurate than CoreLogic, who predicted that we would have a September where we're up 3%. And we're up 19.1. So they were a little off. But they said at this time last year, we had no idea of the impending pandemic. But unless something similarly surprising happens in the next few months, the housing market in Greater Phoenix is unlikely to stop rising. So that's what the numbers are telling them. Even the Cromford report doesn't forecast out much farther than a year. So when they see changes in the numbers, and they have a thing called the CMI, which is a Cromford Market Index, and a level of 100 means the market is normal and it's balanced for sellers and buyers. And right now, we've got markets in the mid 400s. Yes. So that's advantage seller and just a knockdown, drag out war for buyers. So what's going on in Arizona on the week of our elections? So we knew that this week was going to be a little volatile, right?
Yep.
So rates just kind of wiggled a little.
Yeah. Well, actually, they believe it or not, they wiggled a little bit. They went down. I mean, there was a lot of people. I know a lot of mortgage people were locking before the elections, saying that because actually when Trump got in, if people recall, 3 days after he got, the next 3 days after Trump got in, rates went up a half a point. So they went from like 3.5 to like low 4s in a matter of 3 to 5, 6, 7 days, and they went up. Rates were actually steady. They went up a little bit Monday, but then since the election, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they've actually last Wednesday and Thursday, yesterday, they backed off again. So nothing too crazy on the bond market. I mean, I'm still getting purchase rates in the high 2s.
Well, here's where our inventory is. We're sitting at 8,571, which is normal for a Friday. We're usually about 8,600 homes on the market. Last week was the first time since September 14th that contracts dipped below 4,000. We had 3,900 homes going to contract. Not an alarming number, but
Mhm.
it's an indication that as we were coming up on the election, the people were getting, they're just sitting it out.
Yeah.
Nationally, listings dropped by 36% last week. People like, I'm not buying anything. I'm not putting anything on the house. Not putting anything on the market. But I'm going to share on my screen here. I started tracking showings. And so let me pull it up and let's see, share screen. This one here. And there's that. So can you see the chart there?
Yeah, it's somewhat, yeah. Just to probably explain it more than anything.
A little small. Okay, so this is showings in Chandler for a week. Okay, so you can see the big dip here. Chandler went down 25% in showings. Then I tracked 6 cities: Chandler, Gilbert, Tempe, Scottsdale, Phoenix, and Glendale. Look at that dip, 31%. There were 31% fewer showings last week than you can see the trend here. The trend's about 18,500 to 20,000. And then we went down to 14,000. So that's, let's see, where's my stop share button here? So people, that's really the only effect that presidential elections have, is that people just sit it out for a couple of weeks. That's it. Price per square foot, we're sitting at $207.37 versus last year at $174.14. That's an increase of 19.1%. Regardless who wins, and it's looking like it's going to be Biden, that trend is going to continue in 2021. Now, there may be some legislative things that, mix it up a little bit. Your guess is as good as mine, but that's just going to continue, whether it's Trump or whether it's Biden. But here's an interesting thing I read this morning, and this is from the National Restaurant Association. They compiled a list of restaurants that they don't think are going to make it through 2021, if not sooner. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I'll read through these pretty quick. Applebee's, Carrabba's, Sbarro, Ruby Tuesday, Hooters. Really? No. Boston Market, Papa John's, Golden Corral. No more buffets for us. Ponderosa Steakhouse, Steak and Shake, Joe's Crab Shack, Old Country Buffet, Cheesecake Factory, TGI Fridays, Red Robin, Buffalo Wild Wings, Jack in the Box, Quiznos, IHOP, and Marie Callender's, and about a half a dozen more. That's a pretty daunting list.
It is. I mean, I think I saw that list I saw that list actually not too long ago. Maybe, just to give you a flip side of that, maybe it bodes well for the mom and pop restaurants.
Yeah, these are all chains. I think there's a lot to it. I was in downtown Phoenix today visiting old high school buddy is visiting from Denver, and he was staying along Roosevelt Row and around 4th Avenue. And have you been down there lately?
Not recently. It's actually
building a lot of luxury apartments and condos down there.
Yeah.
And in that neighborhood are just what you said, a lot of little mom and pops, neat little craft breweries, little coffee shops. It's becoming pretty cool down there. Even despite the slowdown that we're having right now, you can see a lot of things springing up. So instead of going to Applebee's and Carrabba's, people are going to, some of the local joints downtown. So that, that could be a bright spot. And it's just going to be a big shift. I mean, a lot of these chains were struggling ahead of time anyway. I know Boston Market's been on the fence forever. And Papa John's, they kind of shot themselves in the foot by walking away from the NFL and their advertising. And they got in their squabble, and it really hurt his bottom line.
Yeah.
The rest of them, there's a story for each one of them. But you and I on another subject talked last night, Pat, about maybe there's some different kind of loan programs to help people, know, because it's kind of hard to sell your house and then buy a house at the same time. And you were saying there's might be another loan program.
Yeah, there's you know, yeah, we were talking about last night for people out there that might have a friend that's got some equity in a house, and that's probably the biggest hurdle that you're probably seeing as an agent. I'm seeing from agents is that other, you know, the listing agents don't want to deal with a contingent. You know, you get a client, it's like, hey, I got $300,000 equity, I want to upgrade, but I got to sell my house before I move into another house. And that's probably, wouldn't you say the number one hurdle when people want to try to, you know, their contingencies?
It is. And the sad part is that contingencies right now are only about 3% of the market. In other words, only 3% of people are accepting homes under contingency. So it's really hard to get an offer accepted with a, you know, I want your house, but I got to sell my house first, because you're up against 5 other people that say, oh, I already did that. Yeah.
Well, there's a lender that I brokered to that I know of. I'm not going to mention the name, just, I don't know, for sake of, I don't know if they're violating anything, but it's basically the general program is called the cross collateral loan program. And just in a nutshell, I'll try to explain it simplistically. You've got your house, let's say you owe $175,000 on it, but it's worth $450,000. Basically, what your bottom line is, what you do is you combine the value of both homes, your old home and your new home that you're purchasing. So let's say your old home is worth $450,000, and the new home you're buying is, say, $550,000. You're upgrading a little bit. You combine the value, that's $1 million. And what you do is basically they take the loan to value, kind of like we do anyway, just with one regular home. They take the combined loan to value and what your combined loan to value is. So let's say you owe $175,000 on your old house. You're buying your new house. They can use that. You can do 100% financing because the value would be, let's say, $725 in that example, 175 plus the 550. Well, your appraised value on the old and the new is $1 million. They'll go up to 75% combined loan to value. So basically what you do is you buy the new house, and then let's say your old house is looking to sell 3 or 4 months down the road. You sell that, and then you take the money and basically recapitalize your new home. They basically reset the loan after you sell it.
I like that because it gives you breathing room. So because people don't want to accept a home on a contingency, but at the same time, you don't want to put your home on the market until you've found something you like.
Yeah.
So now you're like, well, geez, I haven't sold this house yet, so I got to write a contingency. And you can't just list your house on Tuesday and write an offer on another house on Tuesday, because contingencies are usually only accepted if you already have a contract in your hand.
Yeah.
What I like about this program is that, you're not going to wait. It's not going to take you 2 or 3 months to sell your house. So you can get that other house, and then you may only be closing on your, and then you have your offer accepted. You wait till you get past the inspection period. You're going to close on the house. Then you put your house on the market. So it's going to close, 30 days later. And instead of having to move right away and having to write an offer with a contingency, you've got time to move.
Yeah.
And you've got a nice cushion there that you can sell, and you probably will only end up making one of the month's payments on that house. And so it gives you an easier time to make that move. I think it's a great program.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's certain qualifying things, obviously, your debt to income ratio, you got to qualify with both payments, the old payment and the new payment.
Yeah, and that's probably a sticker right there.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's not, it's yes and no. I mean, you never know. I mean, obviously, you got you got to qualify for both of them. But the nice thing is, once you get that other monies from the old house, you can repay. You basically pay down your new loan, and then they basically reset, re-amortize the loan. So if you pay, if the $550,000 home, let's say you pull out $250,000 equity, so you're going from a $550,000 loan amount down to basically a $300,000 loan amount.
Okay.
So they reset it basically. So,
but And then we touched a little bit about reverse mortgages.
Yeah, I mean, reverse mortgages are definitely, I've done a handful of them the last couple of years. I'm getting back into it. It's good for, obviously anybody any 62 years and older. The bottom line is I'm going to just touch up on a few things. I think for the most part, people have heard about reverse mortgages. Basically, in a nutshell, it's the complete opposite of the regular mortgage, which is called a forward mortgage, because basically you take out a loan and then you make the payment. Well, here on a reverse mortgage, you're using your equity. If you have a payment, you can use that equity basically to eliminate your monthly payment. And anybody that's 62 years or older, I think people should consider it as a financial planning tool. There's been a lot of negative stuff the last 10, 15 years about reverse mortgages, saying their fees and this, they can take your home. There's a lot of stuff in Congress that's been written now that gives you protects the consumer that they didn't have before.
Yeah, they've had a bad rap, but I've
bad rap. Yeah,
I've seen what they can do. I was at a class on reverse mortgages, and it's amazing because you can, people say, well, I want to save my equity because I want to pass my home out to my kids. Well, you still can. It's not going to wipe out the equity in a short period of time.
No. And the thing of it is, that's right. And actually, if you do get in a reverse mortgage, a lot of people don't understand is like, okay, what happens is basically, in a nutshell, I don't know if you want me to explain it a little bit more, but you owe $200,000 on a house. You're 70 years old. You owe $200,000 on a house that's worth maybe $600,000. Basically, you do the reverse mortgage. It takes that $200,000. I mean, they pay it off. You have no more payment, and then on the other behind in the back room, you have this $200,000 for every payment that you don't make. Your balance goes up 200,000, 205, 210. But what people don't realize though is that you can, if let's say 6 months down the road you're in a reverse mortgage, you can pay down that reverse mortgage balance. You can, it's not like it's something that's kind of flexible. You can actually pay that down if you want. But if there's a lot of planning, financial planning tools, a lot of people say it's a good, one thing I look at it is, people have got a $500,000-$600,000 house. Maybe they owe a little bit of money on it. If you got $400,000 or $500,000 equity, that's kind of dead equity that you're not doing anything with.
Yeah.
And you want to use that kind of, people have to start implementing it in their financial plan, maybe as, hey, this is something that I can use when I can start taking out a reverse mortgage rather than getting on Social Security right away in the mid 60s. I can wait till I'm 70 and I can use my house to kind of bridge that gap a little bit. But
sure.
So there's a lot of ways. I mean, like I said, bottom line is it's debt. I mean, if you get your house paid off, it's really dead asset that you're not really using. So people can start using it a little differently. And I always say that I will never sell a reverse mortgage. I think I told you this last night. I mean, people should come to me because I think most people I've done reverse mortgages for have come to me and say, I want to do this reverse mortgage.
Yeah,
I mean, It's not me selling it to them saying, hey, I think you should do this. They've already made up their mind. Because honestly, I mean, I feel if I have to sell a mortgage to anybody, something's wrong. So, but yeah, I mean, it's there. There's a lot of equity that seniors have. It's a perfect time, to take a look at it. People can get a reverse mortgage kind of put in place. You can use it as a HELOC too. So.
Yeah, it's just another tool in the toolbox. Now I see that the forbearance numbers have just kind of went up a little bit, like a 0.25% or something, or 0.5%. And people had re-entered into it. And they said the main reason was they had gone into forbearance originally. And the reason that the uptick came in is borrowers were not communicating with their servicers. So they thought that their forbearance was done and they didn't know that they could extend it.
Yeah.
So the numbers that showed people going ahead and, and starting to make their payment again and getting out of forbearance, that got better. But then now all of a sudden it dipped a little bit. And they said, well, that's simply because people I didn't know I could do that. There wasn't communication. And I think there's something like I don't know what the number is, but it's huge, of people that don't even know that they can do forbearance without any paperwork. You just call your servicer and go, I'm facing hardship. I'd like to do a forbearance. There's no, I mean, so there's a bunch out there don't even know they can do this, but there still isn't a number that's big enough that says that these forbearances are going to turn into massive foreclosures and then turn into a market crash. Those numbers have not appeared yet. The equity that the average person has that's in forbearance is adequate enough to where they can sell their home instead of letting the bank take it. So as it stands today, that is not the big shadow inventory and elephant in the room that you hear a lot of people talking about. It's not, it's not there yet.
No, I mean, and another thing, just to touch base on the people that don't know about it. I think a lot of people back in 08, 09, I mean, if you're in trouble, a lot of times people, what I found in the past is that people will, if you're getting in trouble, I mean, there's a subset or there's a percentage of people that just want to sweep it under the rug and they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
They don't want to make that phone call until it's too late.
I got a YouTuber asking. I got to jump in real quick. Got a YouTuber asking if we're taking questions, and yes, we are. I'm sorry I didn't see your comment there right away. And then we got a newbie here saying, "Finally caught you guys live. Hello from Queen Creek." So
hello, Queen Creek.
You guys watching Queen Creek. That's hard to say fast.
Try saying that 3 times in a row, real quick. You can't do it.
You first.
Creek. Yeah, good area.
Santan. So
yeah, go back to that. I mean, like you said, the forbearances. I mean, this keeping current matters. This one publication said they said the likelihood of us having a foreclosure crisis again is about 0%. Because, like you said, I mean, I try to compare it. There's just people to say that we're going to have a crash like 08, 09. Once again, I go back. I've been saying this the last 8 months. Our lending programs are not even close to what they were back then. You have to dot every I, cross every T. Back in 08, 09, once again, I'm going to repeat myself, but people were buying 3, 4, 5, 6 homes on investment properties they had no equity. So when the Shinola started hitting the fan, they just let them go. They didn't have no skin in the game. Now you've got people who've got 50 to 100, 150, 200,000, $300,000 in equity. They've got skin in the game with that equity. And it's going to be, I mean, so once again, I think that's going to protect us. And like I said, it all started because of loan programs that were just being very loose and very nilly back in 08, 09. It's not even the case. I just don't see it happening. Like you said, going back to, their demand, the demand has been very strong. So,
I'm the old guy in the room, and I've seen many markets that just after a while just reach their market means.
Yeah.
I can't afford to buy. And then all of a sudden, now you can't afford to buy. And then I can't afford to buy. It's just, I'll never be able to buy a house. And it just, unfortunately, the cycles do take time. They work out easily, or they crash and work out, hard. And I don't encourage anybody to be wrapping their arms around going, I hope there's a crash. And I see people comment like that, and it makes me cringe. It's like, you don't want to crash because that'll hurt your job too. And we want a soft landing, which is what the Fed is trying to do, and try to keep us from turning into Japan, where they've had literally no growth for 15 years. And I mean, their real estate went way down when they started to have their problems in the 90s. But I think looking forward, it's impossible for us to make those decisions on where the real estate market is actually headed. But if we're looking at an inventory of 8571, we know that if that inventory number doubles, that the bidding wars will stop. We know that if that number triples in listings, that it becomes a balanced market.
Yeah.
So that won't be an alarming trend. That'll be a balanced market, and the bidding wars stop. And so we've got to watch that chart, and we've got to, because it could, you could see something like San Francisco, where month after month after month, it started going up. And after, a couple months, guess what? It's a trend. And inventory increased to the point to where now they're seeing price decreases. And until our inventory starts going up and turns into a trend, we're not going to see any price decreases, especially with the level of buying that we have going on now. I mean, it's not rocket science to say listings are down 48%, buying activity is up 38%. Well, guess what happens when we do that? It's like tulips in the 1600s. So it's and you can drive yourself crazy trying to look at the numbers to see if you can project where they're going. I just think it's easier to say, where are they this month compared to where they were 4 months ago? And that tells you, where we're trending, because real estate doesn't turn quick, right?
No,
it's a slow ship that you're turning. But in 2006, you could see it coming. People that were paying attention could see that the market was going to have a problem. And there were a few people shouting it from the rooftop, but for the most part, the water cooler talk was, man, if you don't get something now, you'll never be able to get a house.
Well, I told you, I called my friend. I'm not that I'm like this guru. Like you said, wouldn't be on the Zoom call if I was, worth $1 billion, but I still like you anyway. But I've been in finance for 30 years, and a lot of people, a good number of people look that I know, friends of mine, they're in the mortgage business, like, hey, what do you think rates are going to do? And because I've had a few of my friends say, you're pretty spot on. I kind of look at things, but I remember in September of 2005, I saw this chart about the demand on homes, and it was going like this, but then in September of 2005, it went like this. It cracked, and then it was like this. And I called my friend. I said, we hit the top. And, September of 2005 was still a raging market.
Oh, yeah.
And I called my friend. I said, we have hit the top. And I saw that chart, and then I saw an overflowing conference room of people doing fix and flips. They're literally in the hallway. I couldn't get to my office because they're in the hallway. And I said, I just saw this overflowing room of people that are doing fix and flips. I said, we're going to be in trouble. And then I told her, I said, this is probably going to last us 5 to 6 years to come out of this. And I don't know. Obviously that I had a crystal ball, but it was six years before we started getting out of it.
There's another alarming thing going on in housing right now that really ought to tick you off. And that is that, home builders, it almost takes a year to get into that house now.
Yep.
You've got a lumber shortage. And I'm hearing stories where some of these builders are coming in and revising your price, even though you're under contract. They're going, hey, we got to raise the price, and leaving people no choice but to cancel their contract.
Wow. I heard that.
They agreed to buy it for, $425,000. Now they come down and go, we got to make that $450. I'm sorry. Our lumber prices are high. It's taking longer to build it than we thought. Our projections weren't right. And they know that if you back out of the contract, somebody's going to come in and buy it for $450. And that just turns that part of the market really ugly.
Yeah.
Disappointing. And, and new homes can be expensive. They're great. They're beautiful, but man, you gotta put in the lawn, you gotta buy the drapes, you get, everything. And so then right before closing, or just a few months before closing, to have them come and stick it to you and say that they did a bad estimate and the prices, has to be adjusted. That's pretty bad. I think, most large builders hedge themselves in the commodities market on lumber prices, so they may not be taking that big of a hit anyway. Yeah. I could be speaking out of the wrong side of my mouth here, but I just think you got to be careful. And I warn people too, in going into condominiums, if you think you can't afford a house and you want to go into a condominium, be careful there. Make sure that the board has, and your title company and your lender looks this up. Make sure that they have enough money in reserves for future repairs, like roof and paint, and parking lot. So
or they don't litigation, or if they're under litigation.
What's that?
Or if they're under litigation, that's what basically the lender does. We do a limited review or a full review on a condo. If a condo is approved, we might be able to get away with what they call a limited review. Basically, it's a questionnaire that we send the HOA. They've got to answer these questions. Are you under litigation? What kind of percentage of people, you know, own, how many percentage of investor owned? Because basically you don't want, let's say you want a condo, let's say a unit, 20 unit condo unit. You know, you don't want 18 out of the 20 units being owned by one person, because that could cause a lot of trouble. It's basically a majority.
Well, they end up controlling the board, and they can flip a switch and decide that they want to turn the whole complex into an apartment complex.
Yeah, exactly.
And they give you an offer. They go, here, I'm going to pay you at market value.
Yeah, that's what condos are. You know, they're attracted to certain people, but they're a different animal. They are really a different animal. And anytime I get an agent that calls me and says, I got a client that's looking at condos, you know, the back of my hair stands up, because I'm like, it has got to be a warrantable condo versus non-warrantable condo. Warrantable condo means that the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac will basically underwrite it. If it's non-warrantable, it's outside the box and it's got issues. You can still get them done, but only very few lenders will lend on a non-warrantable condo. Usually portfolio lenders will. But the standard Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loan programs don't, tend to lend on. They only tend to lend on warrantable condos, and those are ones that are already approved by the FHA.
Well, and then when you buy modular homes, I'd never heard of it before. Is such a thing called a tie-down certificate?
Yeah,
they have to be anchored to the ground properly. You can't get the loan. So the inspectors go out there and look and take pictures and make sure that, and they issue you a tie-down certificate.
Yeah, and like the HUD certificate too. The HUD certification's got to be on a mobile home, manufacturer. It's got to be on. If they don't have the HUD cert, it's got to be like, it's basically a plate that says, "Hey, this is an okay manufactured home."
And there could be a lot of problems with those too, because I know one we were trying to sell and it was really cheap. It was like $64,000, I believe it was, a couple of years ago, maybe about 3 years ago. And first time home buyer kid, and the skirting that's along the bottom, they said wasn't the proper material, or it was plastic when it should have been metal. And, and you're just pulling out the rule book and trying to figure out, well, what do we do now? And we got through it, but there was just one thing after another in this little mobile home that came up that just made your hair hurt.
Yep.
Now, I think going forward, I think we can expect that as this election hangs in the wind like it is, that the trend over the next few weeks is going to be more of the same. We're going to have fewer showings this weekend. And I think we dipped by 30%. I think we're going to stay there. And I believe that inventory will come down for two reasons. One, it's natural seasonal adjustment down because nobody likes to list for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And now the uncertainty over when we're really going to find out who the president is and who controls Senate and what's the balance of power in Congress. And there's just too much up in the air.
Yep, there is.
And then there's no guessing where it's going to go and who's going to take my Social Security away. Nobody.
Nobody.
So I think it's going to be a volatile week, volatile month. I think if you're going to list, I don't think any of this stuff will get in the way of that. Because whenever there's a low inventory situation, it's a good time to put your house on the market. Buying, you're competing with fewer people right now, but not low enough to end the bidding wars. They're still knocking a 30% reduction in showings is with the number of showings at 20,000. Not that big a deal.
Yeah,
it's just a blip. So, and 1 week does not make a trend.
So. No, I know one thing. I know we found out that looks like Arizona turned blue. I guess we got too many people from Michigan moving down here.
Yeah, that's the state. It's Michigan. It's clearly.
Michigan. I think people from Michigan are moving down here.
Yeah, and you know what that brings. So it's not California.
So God love them.
I'm going to have to check the U-Haul rates from Michigan to Arizona and see how much that costs. And so for our friends out there in YouTube land, our loyal followers, you can tell we're picking on one of our favorite clients from Michigan. So I'll get a text tonight about 7 o'clock.
I'm sure I'm waiting for my phone to blow up too.
That's the kind of fun we have. And then, so look, if anybody has any questions, shoot me an email. We have our contact numbers, our emails below. If you have any private questions or anything you want to know, hit us up. Like I say, we're just looking at trends, trying to see if anything pops out of us that ruins the weekend. And so far, it's just steady as she goes, even though we don't know who the hell the next president's going to be. Not liking it at all. I don't.
Sucks.
But you knew this was coming.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when you start putting together mail-in ballots on a short-term basis, gee, what could possibly go wrong? I had somebody ask me why I didn't like mail-in ballots, and I said, I like mail-in ballots if you request them, and the system is set up and you've got time. But I said, as far as the Postal Service, I had a letter that they said was mailed in March in Seattle. I mean, in December in Seattle, and it's March now, and I still haven't got it. So it's not that I don't trust the mail service. It's just that it is ripe with problems when you try to all of a sudden do millions and millions and millions of pieces of mail. You can't expect it to go smoothly. And so we're, guess what? Here we are. And that's my editorial opinion from behind the silver Rick microphone.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
all right, sir.
Well, have a great weekend, Pat.
Yep. You too.
And thanks for our millions and millions of viewers.
Yep.
Subscribe.
Be
we
safe.
need the subscribers.
Okay,
Click that like button.
All right, buddy.
See ya.